The alarm screams through the Prometheus as it tears through the atmosphere of Infernus Prime. Commander. Sarah Chun grips her chair while the ship shakes apart around her. Metal groans. Systems fail one by one. Through the viewport, she sees a world that glows red and orange like the inside of a furnace. Brace for impact. She shouts into the comm system. The ship hits hard. The crash throws people against their restraints. Lights flicker and die. Emergency systems kick in with their dim red glow. Then silence, except for the hiss of escaping air and the crackle of small fires. Chun unbuckles and stands on shaking legs. Around her, the bridge crew does the same. Through a crack in the hull, she sees the landscape outside. Rivers of molten rock flow past. The air shimmers with heat. Even through the damaged hull, she feels it pressing against her skin like standing too close to an oven. Status report, she says. Lieutenant Park checks his console. Main power is gone. Life support running on backup. Hull temperature rising. We have maybe 2 hours before it gets too hot in here. Casualties? Checking now. Park listens to reports coming in. 73 dead from the crash. 200 injured. The rest are scared but alive. 2,000 people put their trust in Chun to get them to a new world. She got them to one, just not the one they planned. The navigation computer sent them here by mistake when it failed. Now they sit on a world where the dayside temperature reaches 800 degrees. Hot enough to melt lead. Hot enough to kill them all. Chun activates the ship-wide comm. This is Commander Chun. I know you're afraid. I'm afraid too. But we don't have time for fear right now. We have work to do. She divides the crew into teams. The engineers must salvage what they can from the ship. The scientists must study this world and find places where humans might survive. The medical team must treat the injured. Everyone else will help move supplies and prepare for what comes next. Dr. Marcus Webb, the colony's chief biologist, joins Chun in what remains of the briefing room. He spreads out a map of the area generated by the ship's sensors before they died. We're in the twilight zone, Webb explains. The planet is locked. One side always faces the sun. One side always faces away. We're in between, where it's just sunset forever. How hot? Chun asks. Outside right now? About 200 degrees. The day side reaches 800. The night side drops to minus 200. 200 degrees. Chun closes her eyes. Water boils at 100 degrees. Can we survive that? Webb points to dark spots on the map. Maybe. These look like lava tubes. Caves formed by old volcanic activity. They might be cooler inside. If we can reach them and seal them off, we might create spaces where we can live. How far? 3 kilometers. 3 kilometers across ground hot enough to cook them. Chun looks at the time display. They have less than 2 hours before the ship becomes an oven. Get me the engineering team, she says. 20 minutes later, Chun stands in the cargo bay with Chief Engineer Yuki Tanaka. Around them, crew members work frantically, cutting metal panels from the ship's hull. These are heat shields, Tanaka explains. They protected us during atmospheric entry. If we mount them on the cargo haulers, we can create mobile shelters. Not perfect, but good enough to get people to the caves. How many trips? We have 4 haulers that still work. Each can carry 50 people under a shield. That's 40 trips to move everyone. Chun does the math. That will take too long. Then some people walk, Tanaka says simply. We give them the best heat suits we have. We spray them with coolant. We move fast. Some might get burns, but burns we can treat. Staying here, we all die. Chun nods. There's no good choice, only less bad ones. Make it happen. The first group leaves an hour after the crash. Chun watches them go from what's left of the bridge. The cargo hauler rolls across the scorched ground, its heat shield glowing dull red. Behind it, 50 people in environmental suits jog as fast as they can. Even from here, she sees the way they stumble. The heat is affecting them, but they keep moving. The second group goes, then the third. Each time, Chun counts them out and counts them back. The haulers make the return trip with crew members who will guide the next group. Some people come back with burns on their hands and faces. Some can barely walk, but they all come back. Webb returns with the scout team. His face is red with heat, and his hair is singed, but he's smiling. "The caves are perfect," he says. "Deep, relatively cool. There's even water seeping through the rock. It's hot water, but it's water. We can work with this." By the time the last group prepares to leave, the ship's internal temperature has reached 60 degrees. People sweat through their clothes. The air feels thick and hard to breathe. Chun goes with the final group, taking one last look at the Prometheus before she leaves. The ship brought them here. Now it gives its last gift, its hull panels becoming their shields, its systems salvaged for spare parts. When they reach the caves, Chun turns and sees the ship in the distance, a broken monument on a hostile world. Inside the caves, the temperature drops to a merely uncomfortable 40 degrees. People collapse against the walls, breathing hard, drinking water. Some cry from relief. Others tend to the injured. Children huddle together, frightened and exhausted. Chun gathers her senior staff. They stand in a circle in the largest chamber, their faces lit by emergency lights. "We survived the first day," she says. "Tomorrow we start building. This world thinks it can kill us. Let's show it what humans do when someone tells us we can't survive." Around the cave, people hear her words. Some nod. Some manage tired smiles. They're alive. They're together. And humans have done impossible things before. They'll do them again. 3 days after the crash, the cave system transforms into something that looks almost like a home. Engineers string lights along the walls. Medical teams set up an infirmary in a side chamber where the rock stays coolest. Someone even creates a kitchen area where they heat rations using the ambient warmth from the stones. But food is the problem that won't go away. We have maybe 2 months of supplies. Webb tells Chun during the morning briefing. 3 if we ration carefully. After that, we starve. Chun looks at the faces around her. These people survived the crash. They crossed hellish terrain to reach safety. She won't let them die slowly of hunger. "Then we find a way to grow food," she says. Webb shakes his head. "Commander, nothing grows here. The soil outside is baked sterile. We have no sunlight in these caves. Even if we did, no earth plants can survive this heat. Then we make plants that can." The science team thinks she's crazy at first. Genetic modification takes years of research, controlled environments, trial, and error. They don't have years. They have weeks. But Webb remembers something from his studies. On Earth, in places like deep ocean vents and hot springs, life exists in temperatures that should kill anything. Bacteria and microorganisms that thrive in boiling water. Archaea that live in acid and heat. Life finds a way even in the worst conditions. "If they can do it," Webb says slowly, "maybe we can teach our plants to do it too." They start collecting samples from the lava tubes. Webb and his team find bacterial colonies growing in the hottest parts of the caves, living in water that reaches 90 degrees. They extract the DNA from these heat-loving organisms and study how they survive. Meanwhile, engineer Tanaka works on a different problem. Plants need light to grow. The caves have none. But the temperature difference between the day and night sides of the planet creates constant wind. Tanaka designs turbines that convert that wind into electricity. That electricity powers LED lights tuned to the exact wavelengths plants need. It's not elegant, Tanaka admits, but it works. In a sealed chamber deep in the caves, Webb and his team begin their experiments. They take seeds from their stores and use gene editing tools salvaged from the ship's medical bay. Working 18-hour days, they splice heat-resistant genes into tomatoes, potatoes, soybeans, and wheat. Most of the modified seeds die. The plants sprout, struggle for a few days, then wither. But some survive. A potato plant grows despite temperatures that would cook a normal plant. A soybean vine climbs up a trellis under LED lights, its leaves darker than normal, changed by the new genes inside it. 6 weeks after the crash, they harvest the first crop. 3 small potatoes, barely enough for a single meal. Webb holds them like precious jewels. They're not big, he says to Chun, but they grew. In heat that should kill them, they grew. Chun cuts one potato into pieces and calls everyone to gather. 2,000 people crowd into the main chamber. She holds up the small pieces. This is a potato, she says. We grew it here, on a world where nothing should grow. It's not much, but it's proof. We can live here. We can survive here. She eats a piece herself, then passes the rest around. Everyone gets just a taste, barely enough to notice. But the meaning is clear. They're not just surviving anymore. They're beginning to live. The experiments continue. The science team creates new versions of their crops, each generation more heat-resistant than the last. Within 3 months, they have a working garden that produces enough food to supplement their remaining supplies. Within 4 months, the garden expands to 3 chambers, plants growing under artificial lights, fed by water from underground sources. But it's not just about food. Dr. Sarah Kim, the colony's chief medical officer, notices something strange. The people who spend the most time working outside the caves, who expose themselves to the heat for short periods while gathering samples or doing maintenance, seem to adapt better than those who stay inside. Their bodies are changing, Kim explains to Chun. Small changes. Their sweat becomes more efficient at cooling. Their heat tolerance increases. Nothing dramatic but measurable. Is it dangerous? Chun asks. The opposite. Their bodies are learning. We can help that process along with careful treatment. Heat exposure therapy, hydration protocols, supplements that support their adaptation. We can make the human body more efficient at handling this environment. Chun approves the program. Volunteers start spending increasing amounts of time in heated chambers, training their bodies to tolerate higher temperatures. The younger colonists adapt fastest. Children who were terrified of the heat a few months ago now play in areas that would have made them sick before. 5 months after the crash, the colony holds its first ceremony. They gather in the main chamber, now decorated with growing plants from the gardens. Someone has carved a message into the rock wall. Infernus Prime, humanity's forge. Chum stands before her people. They look different now. Thinner from rationing, tanned from heat exposure, but stronger. Their eyes hold determination instead of fear. We were sent here by accident, Chun says. A computer error put us on a world that was supposed to be empty. And it would be empty if not for us. We took a dead world and made it live. We adapted faster than anyone thought possible. She gestures to the gardens, the lights, the living spaces they've carved from stone. This is home now. Not because it's easy, not because it's comfortable, but because we made it ours. Outside the caves, the metal storms rage across the Terminator zone. The temperature climbs during what passes for day. But inside, humans live and work and grow. Their crops flourish in conditions that should kill them. Their bodies change to match their new world. The impossible colony survives its first season. And the people begin to realize something important. They're not visitors here anymore. waiting for rescue. They're settlers. And Infernus Prime is becoming humanity's newest home. 6 months after the crash, the rescue fleet finally arrives. Chun stands outside the caves in a heat suit of their own design, watching the ships descend. These aren't human vessels. The Galactic Council sent the nearest available ships, which belong to the Rexians. Massive craft that shimmer with energy shields as they settle onto the scorched ground a safe distance from the settlement. A delegation approaches, moving slowly in heavy protective suits that look like walking bunkers. The lead Rexian is Ambassador Thel, whose species evolved on a cold world where water freezes solid for half the year. Through the translator, his voice sounds cautious. Commander Chun, when we received your distress signal, we calculated 0 probability of survivors. We came to recover bodies and salvage. Chun removes her helmet. The heat hits her face immediately, but she can tolerate it now for short periods. The Rexian steps back in shock. As you can see, Chun says, we had other plans. She leads them into the caves. The Rexians move carefully, their instruments scanning everything. They pass through the entrance chamber, down corridors lined with lights, into the main living area where colonists go about their daily work. Ambassador Thel stops at the garden chamber. He stares at the rows of plants growing under LED lights, at the colonists tending them in light clothing despite the 40-degree temperature. This is impossible, Thel says. We get that a lot, Webb replies. Trimming a tomato plant, the delegation tours the entire settlement. They see the water reclamation system that purifies the hot groundwater. They see the thermal power generators that convert heat differential into electricity. They see the medical bay where Dr. Kim treats patients and monitors their ongoing adaptation. They see children attending classes in a chamber decorated with pictures drawn on the rock walls. In Chun's office, carved from a small alcove, Thel sits across from her. His large eyes blink in confusion. My species took 10,000 years to fully adapt to our current homeworld, Thel says. We moved slowly, generation by generation, changing our biology to match the environment. You have been here 6 months, and you have created a functioning colony on a world classified as uninhabitable. We didn't have 10,000 years, Chun says simply. We had 2 hours before our ship became an oven. So we adapted fast. But how? Chun considers the question. She thinks about those first desperate days, about people working until they collapsed, about impossible problems solved with whatever they had available. Humans have a saying, necessity is the mother of invention. When we must change or die, we change. We change our technology. We change our environment. We change ourselves. Whatever it takes. Thel is quiet for a long moment. Then he says, the council will want to evacuate you. We have ships that can take everyone to a safer world. We appreciate that, Chun says. And some people will want to leave. But many of us are staying. Staying? Why? Chun leads him to the cave entrance. They stand together, looking out at the twilight landscape. In the distance, a metal storm moves across the horizon, lightning flashing inside clouds of vaporized iron. Because this is our home now, Chun says. We bled for it. We changed for it. We grew the first food here. We built the first homes here. Some of our people are buried here. That makes it ours. But it's so hostile. Earth was hostile once too. Humans evolved there over millions of years, adapting to predators and disease and climate change. This time, we did it faster. But the principle is the same. Life goes where it can and makes a place for itself. When the council ships prepare to depart 2 weeks later, they take 600 colonists who choose to leave. These are mostly people with families elsewhere, or those who never adjusted to the harsh conditions. Chun doesn't blame them. Not everyone wants to be a pioneer. but 1,400 colonists choose to stay. The departing ships also carry something else: detailed records of everything the colony achieved. The genetic modifications that created heat-resistant crops, the engineering solutions for thermal management, the medical protocols for human adaptation. Chun gives it all freely to the council. Why share this? Thel asks before he leaves. This knowledge could be valuable. You could trade it, because other people might need it someday, Chun says. We learned how to survive here through desperation. Maybe our knowledge can help others survive without the desperation. As the ships lift off, Chun returns to the caves where her people wait. They have plans to make. The colony is stable now, but that's not enough. They want to expand. Engineer Tanaka has designed mobile habitats that can extend deeper into the twilight zones. Webb wants to establish a research station closer to the dayside, where the most extreme organisms might exist. Dr. Kim proposes a breeding program, helping the next generation of colonists adapt even better than their parents. We're not just surviving anymore, Tanaka says during the planning meeting. We're building something. A real civilization on a world everyone said was impossible. Chun approves their proposals. The colony spreads outward from the original caves. They establish outposts where teams can study the unique conditions. They mine minerals from the heated zones that have been pressure forged by extreme temperatures into valuable materials. 9 months after the crash, a child is born in the colony. The first human born on Infernus Prime. Her parents name her Pyre after the fires that shaped their new world. When Chun holds the tiny baby, she feels something shift inside her. This isn't just a colony anymore. It's the foundation of something bigger. Humans aren't just visiting Infernus Prime. They're becoming part of it, just as it's becoming part of them. What do you think she'll grow up to be? The mother asks Chun. Chun looks at the baby, then out toward the glowing horizon visible through the cave entrance. Strong, Chun says. Adapted. Ready for whatever comes next. Because that's what humans do. They adapt. They survive. They thrive. Even faster than fire. 3 years pass on Infernus Prime, and the word spreads across the galaxy. The impossible colony becomes famous. Species from 100 worlds hear about the humans who turned a death world into home. The colony now spans both twilight zones, connected by a network of protected tunnels and surface routes that teams traverse in advanced heat suits. The population has grown too, with new arrivals coming not as refugees, but as pioneers. Scientists arrive to study adaptation. Engineers come to learn thermal management techniques that could help their own worlds. The Vrexians establish a permanent research post near the human settlement. Ambassador Thel, who returned after his first visit, spends months studying how the humans adapted so quickly. I've documented everything, he tells Chun one day, and I still don't fully understand. My people would need generations to do what you did in years. They stand in what the colonists call the Dayside Station, a reinforced outpost that extends into the hotter regions. Through the thick windows, they watch human workers in third-generation heat suits mining rare, crystalline formations that only form under extreme pressure and temperature. Maybe it's because your people had time, Chun suggests. You could adapt slowly because nothing forced you to be fast. We didn't have that luxury. One of the miners waves at them through the window. She's been outside for 6 hours, working in temperatures that would have killed Chun herself 3 years ago. But this miner was born on Infernus. Pyre, now 3 years old, plays in the station's common area behind them. Comfortable in heat that visitors find uncomfortable even with environmental controls. But not everything is peaceful. The Heliorite Empire takes notice of Infernus Prime. They're an old civilization, powerful and territorial. They send a delegation that arrives with a fleet of warships visible in orbit. Commander Vex, the Heliorite representative, meets with Chun in the colony's main council chamber. He's tall and covered in metallic scales that gleam under the lights. His voice is cold. This world was registered as uninhabitable, Vex says. It belonged to no one because nothing could live here. You have occupied it without authorization. We occupied it to survive, Chun replies. We didn't choose to come here. But now that we're here, we've made it ours through our labor and sacrifice. That is irrelevant. The Heliorite Empire claims this entire region of space. This world contains valuable resources. You will evacuate within 30 standard days. Chun looks at the faces around the council chamber. Webb sits nearby, his hair now gray from 3 years of constant work. Tanaka is there, her hands scarred from years of engineering in harsh conditions. Dr. Kim attends via video link from the medical center. All of them show the same expression: determination. No, Chun says simply. Vex's scales ripple with color, a sign of anger in his species. You have no military force. Our fleet could destroy this colony in minutes. You cannot fight us. You're right, Chun agrees. We can't fight you, but we're not going to try. She activates the chamber's main display. It shows a document that scrolls across the screen in multiple languages. This is the Adaptation Accords, Chun explains. Everything we learned about surviving in extreme environments. The genetic modifications for heat-resistant crops. The engineering solutions for thermal management. The medical techniques for rapid human adaptation. We're offering to share all of it, freely, with every species in the galaxy. Vex looks confused. Why would you give away your advantages? Because they're not advantages. They're survival techniques. And everyone should have access to them. The display shows examples. The crop modifications that could help species grow food on marginal worlds. The thermal engineering that could make hot planets livable or cold planets warmable. The adaptation protocols that could help any species settle in environments they couldn't naturally tolerate. We adapted faster than fire, Chun continues. Not because we're special, but because we had no choice. Now we're choosing to help others adapt too. Not through conquest or competition, but through cooperation. She switches the display to show live feeds from across the colony. Humans working alongside Rexian researchers. A team of Clathian engineers learning their thermal techniques. Scientists from a dozen species studying the heat-adapted crops in the gardens. You see us as a threat because we adapted quickly, Chun says to Vex. But adaptation isn't about taking resources from others. It's about learning to live where life seemed impossible. That's what we're offering. Not weapons. Not territory. Knowledge. Vex is silent for a long moment. Then he says, the Empire will consider this. But my orders are clear. You will evacuate. He leaves with his delegation. The colonists watch the Heliorite ships remain in orbit, weapons powered and ready. Chun calls an emergency meeting with the Galactic Council. The hearing takes place via quantum communication, with representatives from hundreds of worlds attending virtually. Chun stands in the council chamber on Infernus Prime, knowing that what happens next will determine everything. 3 years ago, we crashed here, she tells the assembled representatives. We had 2 hours to live. Now we have a thriving colony, research stations, and partnerships with dozens of species. We did the impossible not once but every single day. She pauses, looking at the faces on the screens around her. Some curious, some skeptical, some openly hostile. The Heliorite Empire says we occupied their territory. But Infernus Prime belonged to no one because everyone agreed nothing could live here. We proved that wrong. Not with weapons. Not with threats. With work and adaptation and refusal to give up. The display shows young Pyre playing with other children born on Infernus. A new generation that considers this harsh world normal. These children will grow up stronger than us, more adapted. In another generation, they'll be able to walk the dayside itself, doing things we can't imagine. Not because they're conquering a world, but because they're becoming part of it. That's what humans do. We adapt. We change. We belong. Ambassador Thel speaks up from the Vrexian section. I have spent 3 years studying these humans. They could have kept their discoveries secret, used them for advantage. Instead, they shared everything. Their adaptation protocols are already helping settlements on 12 worlds in the Vrexian Commonwealth. Other voices join in. Species that received the adaptation accords and found uses for them. Colonies struggling in marginal environments that gain new hope from human techniques. The Clathian ambassador, an elderly female whose species values slow, careful change, surprises everyone by speaking in support. My people took 10,000 years to adapt to our current home. We believed that was the only way. But watching humans, we learned something new. Adaptation is not about time. It's about will. And perhaps we should learn from those who have so much will to survive. The vote takes 3 hours. When it ends, the Galactic Council officially recognizes Infernus Prime as sovereign human territory. The adaptation accords are accepted into the Council's knowledge archives, available to all member species. Commander Vex receives new orders. The Heliorite fleet withdraws. Chun stands at the entrance to the caves where it all began, watching the warships depart. Around her, colonists cheer and celebrate. But she feels something deeper than victory. They proved something important. Not that humans are stronger than other species. Not that they're smarter or tougher. But that adaptation, true adaptation, isn't about changing to dominate. It's about changing to belong. Webb joins her at the cave entrance. Together they look out at the twilight landscape, at the metal storms dancing on the horizon, at the glow of the dayside beyond. What now? Webb asks. Chun smiles. Now we keep adapting. We keep building. We keep showing the galaxy what's possible when you refuse to accept impossible. In the distance, a new construction crew heads toward the Terminator Zone. They're building another outpost, pushing the boundaries of what humans can endure and survive. Behind them, in the gardens, crops grow that shouldn't exist. In the medical center, Dr. Kim treats patients and studies how each generation adapts a little bit better. And in the council chamber, young Pyre draws pictures on the wall with other children. Pictures of the world they know. A world of fire and heat and beauty. Their home, Infernus Prime, once a dead world, lives. And at its heart, humanity burns bright, not consumed by the fire, adapted to it.